Hello everyone, TLSG here, back again with another daily Marvel Snap video. So today we have a deck that was built by Fate13. They posted it onto snap.fan. I'll leave a link to it in the description below, but they have called it MODOK because this is very similar to the deck that we built for our day one deck, but the way that you pilot it and kind of the mindset of how you play it is very, very different. So it has a few different cards, and as you can tell, this is much more leaning towards the Hela side of the build instead of the Apocalypse. The Apocalypse is there as kind of a failsafe, a backfall, or to be pulled into by your Dracula after you resummon your MODOK and it destroys your entire hand. But otherwise, you're aiming to have your Hela resummon a lot of resources and power on the last turn. And so the best playline that I could potentially think of is having your Calling Wing discard your Swarm, you play your Lockjaw on the board, and then you can pretty much skip all the way until turn 6. You rotate your 2 free Swarms, and then drop your Hela on the same turn to be able to resummon all of the cards that your Swarms helped you discard. It also has the Death, which is the guaranteed trigger for Lady Sif, and a couple of other synergies of a more Hela-centric build, and it works very, very well. Now, in my testing, I had some insane high rolls. For the first 4 or 5 games, I absolutely blew it out of the water, and then it had some low rolls for about 3 or 4 games that I had to play patiently. I had to retreat from a couple because we didn't get a good flip, because we had a little bit of bad RNG, but then we came right back to having really good play lines. And so it is going to require a little bit of patience. You're not going to be able to face roll every single game, every single time, but you have enough options that a lot of times you can find a way to push your power where you need it. Overall, for me, this has felt incredible. I like this a little bit more than what I've tried of the Hela ramp deck, which is also kind of decent, but a lot of times it feels a little bit clunky if you don't have the perfect play line. And so with that brief deck explanation out of the way, we are going to go ahead and jump over into a couple of games. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, first up we have a Rebel Spy. The first location is Kamartaj, which is beautiful. If we get our Swarm and we can get our Swarm discarded and get the free rotation with our Lockjaw, then we could potentially really help elevate our Hela resummon. We're going to go ahead and play our Morbius into the middle location. The hub gives us Shuri, which we might end up using. It's pretty decent in Kamartaj, but with the double trigger. We could always use it as a rotation as well. We can use Shuri, rotate into something a little bit better. I kind of like that idea. So they skip on turn 3 to let their Sunspot absorb some additional energy. Now in our deck, we still have some key resources. We have our Swarm, we have our Dracula, we have our Apocalypse, and our Hela. So as much as I want to rotate here, I don't think now is the time. I think I would rather just singular play the Lady Sif into the hub rather than rotate. Now, next turn, we could do MODOK into a rotation, and then if it flips into Hela, that's fine. But what we don't want to happen is to only have discarded 1 card, or to ramp up and then flip into Hela and have nothing to pull from it. And so now we're going to double trigger MODOK here. So it's going to double discard our Apocalypse. We are then going to flip into, hopefully, Hela, which will resummon all of this glorious stuff. Oh, so they do a magic, so they extend the game. So actually, it doesn't matter as much what we flip into. Now I kind of hope we flip into maybe our Dracula, something to really help us elevate our Apocalypse's level. And the Morbius is in mid, and he gets instantly huge. And it does flip into Dracula, wow. And then we top deck into our Hela instead. Whoa. We're going to go ahead and play our Apocalypse. We're going to let him duplicate back into our hand. On the last turn, we'll play Hela and just resummon everything else that we had. Just an incredible high roll. So they did use Moon Girl. They do have magic. So I assume that they have maybe a double She-Hulk and an Infinite here. So we're looking to beat 40 power on this last turn. So we're going to play our Hela. We're going to rotate it back into our deck. All we have left in our deck is the Calling Wing and the MODOK. So if we can hit MODOK again, we might be able to get some extra value for our Morbius. But otherwise, we're just pushing a lot of value, a lot of power out onto the board. We get the Infinite that stacks up with the Morbius. We do get the MODOK, and so we get the MODOK trigger depending on what it pulls into in the Dracula lane. They do hit us with the Shang-Chi in the right lane, but we still have the lead over them. They win the cloning vats lane, but we heavily win the low hub, and we pull ahead in limbo as well for the 2 cubes. What an insane last turn. So although this is very close to my day 1 deck, it is navigated and piloted very, very differently. And so we'll go ahead and take those 2 cubes and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Murlocs 6. The first location is the Project Pegasus. And so we can actually play our Lockjaw and our Morbius out onto the board. I don't think we rotate our Morbius. That is one that we want to guarantee that we have. Plus, if we're just randomly rotating with Lockjaw, we are not playing the list efficiently. You want to rotate with a very specific reason in mind. And so for this situation, if we draw into our Hela and we have the free swarms at the end of the game, we will drop the swarms along with the Hela on the last turn to help us with our discards and then to buff up that Hela resummon. And so we are going to go ahead and skip on turn 2. We have our big resources. The only other big resource that we have is the Infinite and then MODOK, but otherwise we have all of them in our hand. So we do get the Calling Wing. So if we can draw into Swarm, that is beautiful. At that point, we're very comfortable. Even though we're not playing very many cards, at that point we would be very, very comfortable with where we're sitting. So they play the Beast and the Rocket Raccoon. We draw into our Infinite. I think we're going to skip one more turn. We could do the Calling Wing rotation, but we don't know what we're going to pull into. We would have the 1 out of 3 of accidentally discarding our Hela, and that is our biggest push in this list. This is a Hela list with a little spice of regular Apocalypse discard, rather than the other way around. And so we do draw into Swarm on our 5th turn. So we don't have much power on the board, but we're feeling pretty confident because we're going to be able to do 2 free rotations. We could even do a 3rd free rotation in the Project Pegasus lane, and then that should help us discard the majority of what we have left in our hand. Just a beautiful turn 4 and turn 5 top deck. And it hits our Swarm, but that's still our lowest power card, our lowest cost card. So Calling Wing is guaranteed to hit it. When it comes back into our hand, it will be free. And so we do have the free rotations. And so left in our list, we have the Gambit, the Lady Sif, and the MODOK. We also have a couple of rocks. So I'm actually going to push for rotating all 3 cards here. Nah, we're gonna trust. We have the 2 out of 5 chance here to pull into our MODOK. And if we flipped the Hela and then we pulled MODOK, it wouldn't do us much good anyways. So we are going to believe in the Lockjaw rotation here. So the first swarm comes down. We need the MODOK. That is not what we need. We have the 2nd rotation. It is the Gambit. That's not necessarily what we need, but it helps a little bit. It takes out their Chavez in the left lane. We still lose the far left lane though. But we win the middle and the far right lane. What a bad game. What a bad game, but we were able to find a way to win. So the Lockjaw spice with the Hela is something that I didn't really think to focus on. And so I have been really, really enjoying just kind of the consistency and the extra oomph that it adds. And so we will take those 2 cubes. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Owen Lee, and we are still remembering when we choked very heavily against Owen Lee at the start of last season. And so maybe we can avoid doing that this time around. We're going to go ahead and play our Morbius into the far right. If we play our Dracula naturally, then we're going to push it into Jotunheim because the power reduction actually won't impact him as long as he has something to pull into on the last turn. And so they play Lizard into the Eternity range. We're going to lose that location. We're going to get the Rock added, which, wow, that is unfortunate. We're going to go ahead and play our Lockjaw into the Eternity range. We could play the Gambit to take out their Lizard, but I don't think it's going to be worthwhile. They play Sauron, so we can expect a very big, heavy, tall minion deck. And then we have the 2 rocks coming down, which are really unfortunate. And they know that. Owen Lee is a very heads-up player. They know that with a Lockjaw, with the rocks that get added with Subterranea, it is a very, very risky gamble. Whereas before, you can really help guarantee what you're pulling into. After those rocks come down, it is an all-out just guessing game. So they skip last turn. They could do a She-Hulk here, potentially. Actually going to rotate 2 of our cards here. We're going to rotate the Gambit. We're going to rotate our Rock. Hopefully we pull into something good. We will see. We're gonna hope. We're gonna have hope. Ooh, can Gambit hit the Red Skull? The 1 out of 3, the 33% chance? No, it hits the lowest. It hits the Sauron, which is, I guess that's okay. We flip into the Infinite, though, which is massive in that middle location. And so then we flip into our Lady Sif, which will discard our Apocalypse, which is also very, very massive. And so now we draw into our MODOK, which I don't know if you guys may have guessed it, but that is also very, very massive. We're going to go ahead and we will play our MODOK. We'll play both swarms into the right lane. That should give us enough power, enough oomph to win the subterranean lane. And then that is going to discard our Apocalypse one more time, bringing him to 16. Dracula will just discard it one additional time, bringing it up to 20, which is going to be a massive push in Jotunheim, a massive push in Subterranea. Going from what I thought was a very scary, a very unrealistic game, we now have a very, very good shot. 2 really good lockjaw rotations, and that was all that it took. Oh wait, no, yeah, we're okay. So the arrow to the left, actually, I thought it was really bad for a second, but it's fine. We are just going to massively outpower them in Jotunheim. We already win the Eternity range because of the Infinite. We are going to push into our 20 power Apocalypse, and just, there's not any, oh my gosh. That's 4 in a row so far, and each one has been a different tactic, a different way to win, but we have found a way to do it every single time. Let's go ahead and take the 4 cubes. We're going to go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Eddingy Bag. The first location is Monster Island, so we get an initial boost. If we use our Gambit early, we might be able to snipe their monster if they don't have any kind of early plays, which would give us some pretty decent value out of him. We also have our Calling Wing and our Swarm, which is a beautiful, beautiful starting pair. We can also do Lady Sif to get the guaranteed discard of Apocalypse. We could do that a couple of times. We're going to go ahead and just play our Calling Wing into Monster Island. If we get Lockjaw, we can actually get some free value by playing our Lockjaw, and then the free Swarms, we could then follow that up on that following turn in another lane and cycle again. We just have some really good value here. We pull into Hela, so I think we're just going to play Gambit. We have the 50-50 chance of taking out either the Scorpion or the monster. We are, of course, rooting for the monster, but even the Scorpion is, I guess, okay. And it will discard one of our cards. The Lady Sif is just a 50-50 chance. At least the Gambit is a pretty good, it could discard our Swarm, our Lady Sif, or our Apocalypse, other than guaranteeing that it hits the Hela. I mean, we could duplicate these Swarms if we don't think we're going to have an issue flooding the board. I'm going to go ahead and play our 2 free Swarms out onto the board. We're going to clone them. There's really not a huge reason not to. Now, the Kingpin could be scary, but we do have the free Swarms. We'll be able to flood that location without really any issue. I'm going to go ahead and play... I want to play MODOK into the Cloning Vats. That way we can have him back in our hand. And so to avoid a potential arrow play here, we're going to play MODOK into the Monster Island lane. Next turn, we will have these Swarms that we can flood into that location. We need to push value into the vault as well. Oh, that's not great. We're going to play 1 Swarm into the vault. If they use arrow, then it's going to pull that one over. It's going to destroy it, which is not... Ooh, so they pull our cards with arrow into the Cloning Vats. Interestingly enough. We are going to be able to fill up the far left lane, but it's still not great. We do get the Swarms back in our hand. We are currently winning the Cloning Vats. We are tied in the vault. So it comes down to who has a better power push. Do we gamble with the Dracula discard? It becomes a 50-50. Or do we just guarantee the 13 value here? If they have a Shang-Chi, they win. We're going to go ahead and lock in the left lane. We're going to have to overcome a lot of power to be able to come up over us. I mean, a Shang-Chi would absolutely do it. So the Magneto is not going to do it, though. So not an ideal play line, but we were able to find a way to do it. We're going to go ahead and take the 2 cubes. Let's jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Sensei 6. The first location is Kamartaj, which is going to be good for... If we draw into our Calling Wing, we can get 2 guaranteed discards of our Swarm. Our Gambit would get 2 destructions. If that ends up being our rotation lane, then Kamartaj is going to be fantastic for that as well. And so they skip on turn 1 as well. It could be worse. Sakaar pulls into our MODOK. It pulls into their Gambit, but it pulls into it before ours reveals. And so our MODOK is actually safe. We have the Swarms. At least we had the Swarms in our hand. So we have the double Swarm. if we draw into our Hela, that's perfect. What we're looking for now is maybe our lockjaw and our Hela to be able to rotate all of our cards. I mean, we're looking for our lockjaw and our Hela to be able to rotate all of our swarms and then resummon all of our cards back onto the board. We get a guaranteed double trigger from Gambit here that is going to destroy their Morbius and their Gambit before they can drop anything else, because we have initiative that is just not going to be great for them. It does discard our death, which is in general not great, but we have hope for the Hela. We still have hope alive. We have several turns to potentially draw back into it. They do have a swarm left in their hand. We do get a very large Morbius here. I think we're going to flood the raft. We have our swarms, we have our Morbius. They might do the same, but having Morbius already at 10 is massive. Whoa, no, so they skipped. Oh, the Odin is huge. The Odin is massive. We're going to be able to re-trigger our Gambit, which is going to trigger 4 times. We're going to be able to take out 4 of their resources. Maybe we get a Hela on this last turn as well. Be beautiful. Okay, let's go ahead or we could draw into our Apocalypse and we discard our Apocalypse 4 times to be pulled into our Dracula. We have we're going to have initiative going into this last turn. So everything in this left lane is going to be dead. Oh, so we're going to play Calling Wing into mid because that's going to be where we need to compete for. But the Odin from the raft is just the highest of high rolls. I think they're going to be, okay, no, they retreat. I really would have liked to see that snipe it out, but we will take the 1 cube. We will take the retreat. We had the guaranteed win. There was no way they were going to push over us. But I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave it a like and a comment down below. And as always, this has been TLSG. Later, guys.